week 6, and I'm going to show you how I mastered About You and all the other tracks that we're posting to our EP. So I have a separate effects chain to what Kobe will be doing, considering we've had to mix and master the songs separately. So what I've got and what I started with was an EQ, a phase EQ, which I then took out some of the lows, some of the muddy areas that we don't need in a track, some of the highs, and then some of the bass, because this track was kind of, even though it was an acoustic track, it still had quite a lot of bass in, especially in the end with the kick. So I took that out. Then I added an exciter, which just sort of highlighted key frequencies around 5,300 hertz, and just boosted the harmonics a tiny bit, 7.2%. And I did that without the actual signal, dry signal on. Sort of here. It's kind of made a big difference to the song. It sort of brights the song up. Then I added a multipressor instead of actual compressor, because with a multi compressor you can compress certain frequencies and change which frequencies you want to compress. So I boosted some of the highs, so I was compressing the highs a bit more, considering how much the kick was hitting some of the mids, and then I brought some of the the high end up around 10k to 20k, because that area was kind of lacking in signal. I then added a spreader, which sort of in that low area, in that high area again, I just needed to boost that signal. So without these, you can hear a big difference in that sort of area. And then I limited it with the adaptive limiter, which is better than the actual other limiter because it has more freedom in what you can do. I'm just boosting the gain, and then the outceiling by minus 0.1 dB, and then the look ahead at 50. I'm going to show you how I mastered Blacked Out by us and Seb. So I have a preset master chain, which I just applied from the last one I did, About You. And I'm going to change something. I found that online, if you master all your tracks together, it keeps a consistent sound throughout the whole of the EP, which makes everything sound the same level, basically. If you mix everything the same, and then keep it consistent throughout the mastering sessions, then your EP is going to sound pretty good. So I started off with an EQ. I took some of the mid-range out, because this track, because it's using a Mellotron, it's quite inconsistent in its sound. I boosted some of the bass because this was lacking a bit. I took some lows and highs out like I did before. I added an exciter, which around the 3,100 hertz range. I boosted the harmonics by 6.48%, as you can tell. This is the dry signal, and the dry signal off. As you can tell, it boosts that tiny little range there. Without it, with it, you can sort of hear it. I can hear it. You probably can't hear it through the microphone, but with the EQ, you can definitely hear it. I added a compressor. I compressed some of the highs, I compressed some mid-range, compressed the around the 2k and 5k hertz, and then I upped the 10 to 20k in that low range, just to in that high range, just to make that come through a bit more. I added spreader. The spreader stayed the same from the last track. It didn't need moving. And then I also added a limiter to boost it and make it louder. So this is my mastering session of Burning with GE Music. I'm going to show you how I mastered it and what I did, and how I changed the preset that I made from the last two songs that I mastered. So first of all, I took the EQ. I took out low to the low because when I mixed this song, it was perfectly mixed, it was fine, just the lows were a bit too much, so I just needed to fix that. I took out some highs and some lows. I had an exciter. This one was around, if you turn it on here, it was around 870, just to boost the middle section, and the harmonics at 7.22%. I then added the multipressor. I compressed the lows pretty high, the mids pretty high, and then the same again with the highs. I just boosted them a tiny bit so they come up into the mix a bit more. With the spreader, it's the same as every other song, just spreading that low section, and then with the limiter, it limits exactly the same. With all of that, it just creates a better master, louder. My master session of Time. I'm gonna start off with showing you just the mixed version. So I instantly knew that I wanted to take some of that bass out with the EQ, which is what I did, and then some of the high end just to take out, and then low cut it and high cut it. For the exciter, I wanted to boost around this range, the 5,300 hertz range, just because the bass was sort of sucking in that area, and it needed boosting. I then compressed it, compressing the lows, the mids, the high mids, and then the bringing down up the highs, just to fill in that space. I put spreader on. The spreader hasn't changed throughout the 4 tracks that I've mastered, and then limit has also not changed, and altogether it sounds like this. So as you can see, it just makes it a lot louder, a lot cleaner, and puts through some stuff that you wouldn't be able to hear normally.